This is a few excerpts from a declaration from the poor oppressed people of England, and it's I'm going to read it all the way through without stop. These several different excerpts, so it's kind of glued together, trimmed down. We whose names are subscribed do in the name of all the poor oppressed people in England declare unto you that call yourselves lords of manors and lords of the land, that in regard the King of righteousness, our Maker, hath enlightened our hearts so far as to see that the earth was not made purposely for you to be lords of it, and we to be your slaves, servants, and beggars. But it was made to be a common livelihood to all, without respect of persons, and that your buying and selling of land, and the fruits of it, one to another, is the cursed thing, and was brought in by war, which hath, and still does establish murder and theft in the hands of some branches of mankind over others, which is the greatest outward burden and unrighteous power that the creation groans under. For the power of enclosing land and owning propriety was brought into the creation by your ancestors by the sword, which first did murder their fellow creatures, men, and after plunder or steal away their land, and left this land successively to you, their children. And therefore, though you did not kill or thieve, yet you hold that cursed thing in your hand, by the power of the sword, and so you justify the wicked deeds of your fathers, and that sin of your fathers shall be visited upon the head of you and your children to the third and fourth generation, and longer too, till your bloody and thieving power be rooted out of the land. And further, in regard the King of righteousness hath made us sensible of our burdens, and the cries and groanings of our hearts are come before him. We take it as a testimony of love from him, that our hearts begin to be freed from slavish fear of men such as you are, and that we find resolutions in us, grounded upon the inward law of love, one towards another, to dig and plough up the commons and wastelands through England, and that our conversation shall be so unblameable that your laws shall not reach to oppress us any longer, unless you by your laws will shed the innocent blood that runs in our veins. For though you and your ancestors got your property by murder and theft, and you keep it by the same power from us, that have an equal right to the land with you, by the righteous law of creation, yet we shall have no occasion of quarreling as you do about that disturbing devil called particular propriety. For the earth, with all her fruits of corn, cattle, and such like, was made to be a common storehouse of livelihood to all mankind, friend and foe, without exception. And therefore the main thing we aim at, and for which we declare our resolutions to go forth and act, is this: to lay hold upon, as we stand in need, to cut and fell, and make the best advantage we can of the woods and trees that grow upon the commons, to be a stock for ourselves and our poor brethren through the land of England, to plant the commons withal, and to provide us bread to eat, till the fruit of our labors in the earth bring forth increase. And we shall meddle with none of your proprieties, till the Spirit in you make you cast up your lands and goods which were got and still is kept in your hands by murder and theft. And then we shall take it from the Spirit that hath conquered you, and not from our swords, which is an abominable and unrighteous power, and a destroyer of the creation. But the Son of Man comes not to destroy, but to save. Therefore we are resolved to be cheated no longer, nor be held under the slavish fear of you no longer, seeing the earth was made for us as well as for you. And if the common land belong to us who are the poor oppressed, surely the woods that grow upon the commons belong to us likewise. Therefore we are resolved to try the utmost in the light of reason, to know whether we shall be free men or slaves. If we lie still and let you steal away our birthrights, we perish. And if we petition, we perish also. Though we have paid taxes, given free quarter, and ventured our lives to preserve the nation's freedom as much as you, and therefore by the law of contract with you, freedom in the land is our portion as well as yours, equal with you. And if we strive for freedom, and your murdering, governing laws destroy us, we can but perish. This was a tract written by communists in England in the year 1649. Besides the fact that it's Middle English, archaic English, and sounding very radical and straight up fist shaking, which I kind of like. Besides that, I wanted to read this because I wanted to show that there very often can be pacifistic messages that are communicated with what sounds like violent language. And this is one of those things. If you would have listened carefully, you would have heard that the writer of this pamphlet, Gerard Winstanley, basically condemned violence, almost all violence, even though he used the phrase, till your bloody and thieving power be rooted out of the land. And also he borrowed a bunch of phrases from the Bible which show collective punishment. And as from Exodus 20, anybody who's read the Ten Commandments in their context knows that God said, "And I will visit your wickedness upon you and the children to the third and fourth generation." Very much of a collective punishment attitude. But punishment from a pacifistic standpoint is very different from punishment in the conventional standpoint. And were these guys making a mistake when they use such kind of harsh language to describe their beliefs? Probably. But despite that mistake, I think this is a beautiful piece, and I think it can be appreciated. Now, I am not a communist. This is a communist tract. I'm not a communist. I don't believe in... I think that common ownership is possible and possibly legitimate. I don't believe that common ownership of land should be the norm, though. And I don't believe that individual ownership of land is illegitimate. Now, I think that anybody who wants to appreciate this fully has to be able to recognize all of the different nuances of the piece. And this relates to the Quran. Anybody who wants to appreciate the Quran has to be able to appreciate all the nuances of it. Now, the Quran is sometimes very blunt. But when you look at the language in the Quran about violence, make sure that you are very careful about reading all of it. Because very often you will see that there is language about God doing the punishing. And most of the language about violence in the Quran is about God doing the punishing. And this is something that anybody who's familiar with Christian writings can recognize. Vengeance is mine, saith the Lord. And that punishment is God's thing, according to in very many of the situations in these theistic religions. And you have to be able to recognize that. And if you don't, then something like this, which I think is amazing and even incorrect, but amazing still, it isn't going to be understood that well at all. I hope you have a good September 10th, and I hope you have a good September 11th too. Hope some prayers to everybody out there who has been affected by this, and I know it's still something to adapt to. I still sometimes am very bothered by something that happened very many years ago. Not very many years ago. You see, it's not long enough. But yes, good day, good afternoon, and see you guys later.